Okay, here we go. Continuing on with chapters 17, 18, and 19. Those three chapters, as I read through them, I didn't have a whole lot of additional thoughts. And so we're going to combine all three of those, chapters 17, 18, and 19. Before I get into those, however, you may have noticed I have a little change of appearance here. I did get a haircut here a day or two ago. I think I mentioned about how frugal my dad was in a recent post here, and he was very frugal, and people have said I'm kind of like him, or even look like him, and I thought that was a compliment, but come to find out, maybe I resemble him a little bit in that area as well. The reason I got a haircut is my hair was getting too long. I couldn't hear or see. That's when I get the hint that it's time to get a haircut, when I can't see or hear anymore. But I cut it down, as you can see, pretty short. And I do that for a reason. The darn haircuts are $20 these days, and I can't justify putting out $20 for a haircut every week or two, and so I have them hack it off, and my next haircut will probably be about Vicky's birthday around the middle of March or something, and today is the 2nd of November, so it'll be 3 or 4 months. So maybe I take after my dad a little more in that regard than I even realized until I thought about this haircut, and that's why I do that. So at any rate, no big deal, but one observation there. All right, chapter 17 deals with poetry, my favorite poem. Well, as I mentioned in the book, poetry has never been my go-to. Vicky balances me in that regard. She loves that stuff and all of that, those nice poems and stories and all that sort of thing. But I've never been too hot into that, and I mentioned that in the book. But the only thought I had with regard to my favorite poem was I took Shakespeare in college. I think I took it with Vicky, because the only reason I took it is so I could take a class with her. But at any rate, we were going over Shakespeare, and one of the first things we did was the balcony scene, and reviewing the balcony scene of Romeo and Juliet. Where let's see, Juliet's up on the balcony, and she says, wherefore art thou, Romeo, and all of that, and they were discussing all of that. Then later on in the play, as she's just about ready to kill herself, gee, what a wonderful story, killing everybody, she said, "To be or not to be, that is the question." And I raised my hand at that point. I said, "Professor, is she asking whether she's from Montpelier or not, or what's going on there?" Now, for those of you who don't get that joke, then that's okay, but you'll figure it out maybe one of these days. So that's my only additional thought on poetry. Chapter 18, keys to good relationships. Well, I mentioned, the golden rule and all of that sort of thing, and that still is my go-to in terms of being successful in relationships. But one other thought that I had, and this is absolutely true, the person that you marry is by far the most important decision that you make in your entire lifetime. If you get the right person, if you marry the right person, you're in heaven. If you marry the wrong person, you're somewhat south of that several steps. And so, and I've mentioned this in every class I've ever taught, because it's so important. If you're going to get married, the person that you marry is by far the most important. Where you live, and what your car is, and what your house looks like, and your job, and all those are important, but it pales by comparison to who you marry, because that is without question the most important decision that you make. And I'm thankful and grateful every day for the decision that I made. Like I mentioned, I don't think I'll ever get a greater blessing than the one that the Lord gave me when when Vicky agreed to marry me, and it's been the greatest blessing in my life. So that's one other thought that I had on chapter 18 about relationships. The last one. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, chapter 19. Well, my mom, bless her heart, I went to see her here a couple of weeks ago in Soda Springs, and she mentions this. She's read my two books, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, according to her, and she enjoys them. But to this day, she thinks most of the stories and most of the accounts in both of those books are fabrications, falsehoods, make-up stories, whatever. She thinks a good share of it is mostly just me yammering on, I guess. But I think I've mentioned this before, but every account in both of these books is as I remember it. There's only one chapter where I may have taken just a slight literary license, shall we say, and that is chapter 19 with the story about the girl with no legs. Like I mentioned, I somehow got to that story virtually every year I taught it at government in Twin Falls High School. The kids heard about it and so forth. But at any rate, I may have taken a slight literary license there, but the rest of the accounts are as I remember them. So those are the only thoughts I've had about those 3 chapters, and we'll continue on as we go with the next chapter. Thanks.